Hello, thank you for joining us today. My name is Della Schmidt, President and CEO of the Greater Burlington Partnership. Welcome to our new Success in Business series. This is a benefit of Chamber membership. It's exclusively for our members. We want to say thank you for your support and your investment in the Chamber. So who is ready to up their networking skills game? No matter where you're at in your career, your experiences, you can always learn some new things. I know that I can. I'm looking forward to our speaker today. We have with us today Mr. Casey Fleming, and he has a topic that he calls, Are You Interesting or Interested? So please join me in welcoming Casey Fleming.
I can take this off now. Yeah, take it off. Woo. Well, welcome and welcome into my office. It's odd to be speaking to a computer screen, and I've done some Zoom meetings and different things where you can see other people. I just see myself, which is it's obvious that the camera puts on 20 pounds and takes off 20% of your hairline. I've learned, but thank you for. See, it's tough because I try to be funny, and normally people don't laugh. But you can tell when they don't laugh because you can see them and see the eye rolls. Here it's tougher just because I assume that you're not going to laugh. So I'll try to stay away from the humor. But anyway, thanks to the partnership for inviting me in today. And hopefully we can have a little bit of a discussion about some networking, some sales, have a little bit of fun along the way, and take a few tidbits home that you can put to use in maybe at work, maybe at home, maybe in volunteer activities or wherever you think you might be able to plug some of this stuff in. So anyway, I think Dustin can queue up my slides and we'll go ahead and get started. Some of you may have seen a version of this before if you've been involved in the leadership program through the partnership. I've done some various versions of this over the years, but it's a conglomeration of different things that I've picked up over the years through networking and through some different jobs and life experiences I've had. So I sure don't claim to be an expert, but I think I've learned from a lot of experts and hopefully can share some of that information today. So I am the medical staff recruiter at Great River Health System, Great River Health. Out here in West Burlington, and I've been recruiting for this is my 11th year, and basically networking is what I do, is facilitating relationships between recruits and our health system and our community, and trying to bring people in to provide great health care and live and enjoy life in Burlington. So it's really what I do, and I think I feel very lucky to work for a great organization in a great town. And I think it's a great place to recruit too. Some people ask me, man, is it tough to recruit to Burlington? And it's tough to recruit anywhere. It's tough to recruit to Denver. It's tough to recruit to Hawaii, believe it or not. Every place has their hurdles, but I do think this is a great place to recruit to, even today when it's 3 below. Coincidentally, I have somebody in today visiting from Alaska, and they had really been looking forward to coming to a place where it was going to be quite a bit warmer, and here we are. So she's excited that it's going to be 16 tomorrow at least. So, but my history and some of my background, I worked in radio for about 15 years. I worked in TV for about 3 years, both on the air and in sales and marketing. And I'll take some of those experiences, pair it with some of my healthcare experience and recruiting and sales there, and hopefully, again, provide some information that you can take home today and learn from a bit. So we are, or at least I am, very new to this actual format. So I think I advanced my own slides. I think. So are you interested or interesting is the topic. And yep, there it went. So what's the most interesting thing that you've done in your life? And a minute ago, I saw the whole list of people that were on the call. I won't pick anybody out in particular because I know about half of you. Thank you for joining today, by the way. I only had to pay like 10 people to get on here to make sure we had at least a little bit of a crowd. So again, more bad humor, right? But So what's the most interesting thing that you've done in your life? And I've done this in person, and I'm going to ask you to think about it and just say it to yourself or say it to somebody in the room if you're sharing the computer screen or something with somebody. Many times I get strange looks from people when I ask this question, and they think, well, I'm not interesting. I really haven't done anything that unique. And then you find out that people that live right here in Burlington, have gone scuba diving off New Zealand, and you learn that people have delivered babies in cars. You learn that people have skydived hundreds of times. There's all sorts of unique things that people do. And then when you start to think about your business, what's unique about your business? What's unique about maybe your family or some life experience that you've had? We've heard some really funny stories about stuff people have done. We've heard some stories when I've asked this in like the leadership class and some other business settings that have brought tears to people's eyes when you talk about maybe some different family and life experiences that have been challenging that have led to form people to what they are today. But everybody's interesting, right? So we all have a story to tell, and then I'd argue that when you ask somebody what's something interesting about yourself, continue to ask questions. Okay, don't just say what's interesting about you, and they say, well, I've been to Hawaii 19 times, and then you jump into your home movie about where you take your vacation, and all of a sudden a half hour of you talking is over, and you've completely lost the interest of the other person. So that's okay. So we have the goal today, that what we're kind of talking about, is keeping the spotlight on the person you're talking to build that network and to build that relationship. Okay. So when you do ask somebody what's most interesting about you, ask them 3 more questions. One of the questions I ask recruits when I get them on the phone the first time is, what do you like to do outside of work? Everybody in medicine, they have a specific specialty, if it's surgery or anesthesia or whatever it might be. But let's learn about the person too, because if we find out that the person has interest, in soccer, I can tell them about the new turf location we have here in town, or maybe they like hunting or fishing, and we can talk about that. So when I find out what they do like to do outside of work, I continue to, peel back that onion and follow it up with at least 3 questions. And many times when you get people talking about stuff that they're really interested in, maybe it's motorcycle riding, maybe it's their family, it's travel, whatever, they'll go on, and you can learn all sorts of things. Then you can build the rest of your conversation around what's interesting to them. Because sitting there talking at people about what you think they're interested in is usually a waste of time. And I think that's very true in any sales setting, or even if you're at a social function trying to make new friends. Really keeping the focus on the other people, asking multiple questions, what interests them and why do they like what they like. You really can learn quite a bit. So telling the story, are you interested in their story, or are you interested in telling yours? So if you're a business, many times when you start to think about advertising and marketing, or if you meet somebody for the first time and they ask you, what do you do? And you tell them, well, I'm a jeweler, and you spend a half hour talking about being a jeweler. Many times you lose people, but when you keep the spotlight on them, in marketing, in one-on-one communication, whatever, you really can learn a lot. So we're going to try a little technical marvel here by getting this approved Becker's Diamonds commercial to play. So here we go.
We've been bringing men to one knee since 1948. Hi, this is Bill Becker from Becker's Jewelers. You see, we've been part of that moment when a man takes a little box from his pocket, his heart starts thumping so loud you can almost hear it, and he looks across at the woman he has a question for. And he's so excited because he thinks he knows her answer. And then, right there in front of her, in front of dozens of people in a restaurant, or just 2 of them, alone in the kitchen, he gets down on one knee, takes a breath, looks up at her, and those magical words tumble out. Is it your moment to get down on one knee? Come see us. We have the perfect diamond that is sure to give her goosebumps. And when you hear her answer, you'll rise to your feet and feel the arms around you of the woman you will cherish for the rest of your life. Thanks for letting us be a part of your moments that matter. Becker's Jewelers, Mount Pleasant and West Burlington. Member, American Gem Society.
So Becker's Jewelers, right? They didn't talk about like selection or price or we've got this great sale going on or a bunch about our location and all that stuff. Obviously, he said who he was, where they're at. But that's a story that a lot of guys and folks have gone through and getting ready to ask that future spouse or potential future spouse, that the big question, and that story he tells throughout that 1 minute ad. I would, and again, when I'm in a personal setting, I can see people thinking back to that moment when they were either on the knee or if you were the recipient of that question, and it's life-changing. So, Bill Becker, he's telling a story. He's in the life-changing business. The diamond is the vehicle, but he's in the life-changing business. Right? He's not talking about the cut and the clarity and all that stuff about the diamond itself. He's talking about how he can help you put that smile on her face and change your life as a result. Now, yeah, it's going to cost you, but we figure all that out later, right? And that's I think that's a great example of being interested in his clients and not just being an interesting storyteller in the marketing he's trying to do. The other example I'm going to give you, so this is one of your tidbit takeaways. So, that ad is kind of rooted in some persuasion stuff that we did at Pritchard Broadcasting a number of years ago. There's a gentleman by the name of Roy Williams. He's out of beautiful Buda, Texas. He has called himself the Wizard of Ads for about 20 years now, and is a number of different books about ad writing, especially in radio. And you can Google him, Wizard of Ads, Roy Williams. I'll have the website up, I think, later on in a slide. But he tells the story about when he was a young radio salesperson, and he walked into a very successful, it was like an RV and mobile home type of sales lot, and he walked in and of course, he's got his, $9 sport coat on because he was a young guy without any money and had a briefcase that was empty, but he thought it looked important to carry a briefcase into a meeting. And he walks in, and of course, the guys are like, look at this, Bill, another salesman. What are you selling today, Bill? Or whatever your name is. What is your name? Oh, my name's Roy, and I'm really not here to sell anything. I was just admiring how your sales lot looks so much better than everybody else in the area. And I kind of wanted to learn about how you guys have been so successful and why you do things so differently. And suddenly he had their attention. And about 20 minutes later, after they told him their successful business story, he said, I think I can help you make more money. Well, that had their attention. And what business doesn't want to make more money? And by the end of the conversation, he had a new client that he was going to help market RVs and mobile homes in. And he did the same. He made a lot of money in the diamond industry. So it's not a coincidence that I used a diamond ad as an example. But the line that Roy Williams came up with was, for this one particular jeweler, I think it was in Springfield, Missouri, was, she'll kiss you like she's never kissed you before. And millions of dollars later, that guy's one of the more successful jewelers, not only in the Midwest, but the whole country. So again, you can Google that on your own. I'm not going to give you all the boring details of that story, but Roy Williams he's an interesting guy. He knows a lot about human persuasion. And again, if it's in a business setting, if it's in a building a network setting, if it's social, friendship, family, in education, whatever, he's got some really interesting insights of kind of human persuasion and how folks communicate and what works and what doesn't work. So again, his website will be coming up a little bit later on. So how did my friend make my wife cry, and why was it such a cool moment? I mean, you don't want your wife to cry, right? And so I was with some friends at a social setting, and I grabbed my phone, and I had this picture of my, at the time, I think 7-month-old daughter that my older stepdaughter had taken, and I was bragging about it to this particular friend. Now, many people's reaction when people start showing you pictures on their phone is like, dude, I already saw that on Facebook. You don't need to sit here and scroll and show me another 50 pictures. But this person, instead of telling me about the pictures on their Facebook or the travels they had taken or family members in their life that they had neat pictures of, this person said, hey, I got a great idea. Did you know that there's a local business? At the time, it was Drake Hardware and Software that was doing this, that could print that on a one of those canvas things on like a box type deal. And I bet your wife would love that as a birthday present. I happen to know that your wife's birthday is coming up, isn't it? Yes, it is. Well, call them up, get that canvas printed up and blown up. I bet she'd love it. And I'm thinking to myself, that's got to be hundreds of dollars. And I had already spent hundreds of dollars on my wife's birthday and didn't know if this was going to be something that's going to fit into the budget. And she goes, you're going to be amazed how, before I even said that, she saw me thinking that. And she goes, you're going to be amazed at how inexpensive it is. So when I presented this photo to my wife on her birthday, the tears were flowing. That's my little Girl Scout cookie selling daughter, Rowan, when she was just 7 years old. So my friend Kay, she's the one that said, here's what you can do. Get the picture taken, blow it up into a canvas. That cost me like $50. Pretty easy money to spend. And the fact that she chose to be invested in my story and try to help my situation better, boom, that's networking 101, right? So I think that's a great example of being interested in somebody's story, not just trying to be interesting yourself. There's that photo again. The master of being interested in you and not themselves is that guy. I'd assume that some of you would recognize that guy as being Garth Brooks. He captured the country's attention when he sang Amazing Grace at the inauguration last month. He also captured the country's attention when he came back on a out of retirement stadium tour about 7-8 years ago. And I think a lot of people thought, well, Garth Brooks is washed up. How in the world can he sell out all these stadiums? Not only did he sell them out, but he beat everybody's records. Many of them were his own. But all these big, huge reunion tours, Rolling Stones, Elton John, boom, here comes Garth Brooks, blows them all away. And I'd argue he does that because he is better at acting like he cares that you're out there in the seat at that concert than anybody else. He's not the best guitarist. He's not the best singer. He does not write any of his own songs. He's a performer. And he said early in his career, he realized playing in small bars in honky tonks in Oklahoma and Texas, that people that came to listen to him wanted to hear the songs that they wanted to hear. They didn't want to hear the songs that Garth wanted to play, because he's like, if I go out and just play all the songs that I think that I like, I have no idea if those people are going to like it or not. And he's like, so I learned thousands of songs, and everywhere I went, I played the songs the crowd wanted to hear. And then as he got bigger and became famous and got record deals and stuff, he picked songs that he thought other people would like. He didn't just pick songs that he liked because he liked them. He picked songs that he thought would touch other people and told stories about everyday life. And then when he's in that stadium, I don't know how he does it, but he really makes you believe that he is not there for himself. He's not there because he loves running around like a maniac and singing loud and sweating and everything else. He honestly makes you believe that he is there because he cares you spent your $50 to come watch him sing Friends in Low Places and whatever songs. And he sings all the old stuff. He might sprinkle a few new songs in there, but have you ever gone to a concert or one of your favorite artists and they're like, oh, by the way, we're going to play all the new stuff tonight off this new album that you've never heard and don't care about? Boring. Garth doesn't do that. And that's why I think he's the best-selling single artist of all time, because he just does a better job being interested in the people that are there to watch him than just, telling his story, playing the music he wants to play. Bob Jern. Anybody ever heard of Bob Jern? So I'm assuming there's some nodding heads out there. Bob Jern started advertising with Pritchard Broadcasting again, 15, 16, I don't know, maybe 20 years ago. and he came up. He and I believe it was my good friend, the late Matt Hatter, and some other folks, also the late Chet Young. Man, I hate talking about people that have passed away, but I think a lot of you folks know both Chet and the Hatter, and they affected a lot of lives and helped a lot of people make a lot of money in marketing and advertising and business locally. But anyway, they came up with this plan of we're not going to talk about being great plumbers or talk about, all these different fancy sales we do and rebates. And we're just going to tell you that we're going to come to your house and fix your furnace when it's 2 below or your air conditioner when it's 95, no overtime charges. Doesn't matter. Night, weekend, Christmas, 4th of July, no overtime charges. And he kept that focus on the customer. You never once really heard what the hourly rate was. You never once really heard about how good of the craftsmanship was going to be or the work they were going to do. It was all about, we're going to make your life easy, customer. We know that furnaces break down in the middle of the night and air conditioners break down when you're getting ready for the big birthday party in July. We don't care when it is. We're going to come at you and help you when you need us. And they did a really, really nice job with that, and their business really expanded hugely because of that. I worked in radio for a long time, and I my old dog Reggie was my sidekick, right? So I was single for most of my radio career, and got married. I guess I was out of radio by then, so I didn't have any kids to talk about or any of that type of stuff. But I had this dog, Reggie, and he always got in trouble, and he ended up in the West Burlington school one time. He ended up in the mall one time. He ate an entire Thanksgiving turkey one time. Anyway, just a lot of funny stories about my dog. If you've ever seen Marley and Me, Reggie was Marley, maybe times 2. But so I started telling these Reggie stories on the radio back in 98, 99, and people would call in. They'd call in and tell me their dog stories. And so I started putting them on the air. So I'd tell some Reggie story for 2 minutes, and then the next 2 hours on the air, you'd have all these dog stories. And, I'd bring him down to the rodeo parade in Fort Madison, and more people wanted pictures with Reggie than the old fat radio guy. So my dog became famous just because I told a few stories about him. And I realized pretty quickly that people, they cared about my dog, but what they really cared about was their dog. Okay. And my quick story about my dog cued their emotion. And then I let them go on and on about their dogs and telling their crazy dog stories about the things their dog did out on the river or at grandma's house or whatever else. So it's not really about my dog. It was about their dogs. And I realized that. And if you look at any talk show hosts, you look at the career Jay Leno had, or Johnny Carson going back, and then today, of course, I guess Letterman's retired too. Man, I'm getting old, but Jimmy Kimmel and what's the other guy's name? Kimmel, and I can see him. Anyway, you know who I'm talking about, the late night talk show people. Stephen Colbert coming in my ear. Thank you. What they do is they do a really good job when they get people in their chair next to them or over a virtual meeting like they're doing now or whatever, of them telling their story. You don't really care about Jimmy Kimmel's story. Yeah, he's funny with his monologue, but what they're good at is putting the spotlight on the person in the chair next to him or on the screen next to him virtually or whatever else. That's why those people are in those chairs and on those shows. Yeah, they can get up and be funny for 2 or 3 minutes during their monologue. Anybody can be funny when you got great writers that write great comedy for you. But really the skill and talent is the ability to put the spotlight on the famous person next to you and get their story out, because that's what you want to hear. You want to learn about, what these people are doing and what happened with the controversy on Twitter or whatever they were involved with. The master of that, and this is only good for maybe some of the folks my age in the audience today, but was Barbara Walters. The joke was throughout the 70s, 80s, and 90s was Barbara Walters is going to make you cry no matter who she interviews, right? She'd dig into their personality and their personal story and family history, and she'd end up getting these people telling these touching stories that they'd end up crying. And that was, again, Barbara Walters was great. She was probably one of the best at getting other people to tell their story. That's why people wanted to watch Barbara Walters, not because she had a nasal, annoying voice. It was because she was good at getting other people to tell their story. So when I was a kid, I was the youngest of 5 kids, and many of you know, probably my brother Pee Wee still in town, and my dad Bob still in town. He'll be 90 next month, by the way. Happy birthday, Dad! A little bit early, but so youngest of 5 kids. My older siblings were busy doing other stuff, and I'd be left at the house with Mom and Dad sometimes, and I'd be like, "I'm bored," and my mom's classic line was, "Well, hi, bored. I'm Pat. Nice to meet you." Then I'd get frustrated. "Mom, that's not nice." Now I find myself saying the same thing to my 7-year-old. "Dad, I'm bored." "Hi, bored. I'm Dad." Makes her just as mad as it made me. But my mom would say, "Go out and play. Go out and find some friends." I'm like, my friends are all busy." "Well, go make new friends." "Well, I don't know about new friends, and I don't know if I want to talk to new people and stuff." And I was, believe it or not, kind of a shy kid. And my mom taught me a great lesson. She's like, "Son, people like people that like them. If you just go meet some new kids, introduce yourself, and ask them what they like doing, you're going to make friends. It's really not that hard. Tell somebody they like that you like their bike. Say, hey, that's a cool bike," and people will think, well, "Wow, this kid likes my bike. That's cool." And I've got a further example on that with a book that I'm going to share with you. Matter of fact, here's that book right here. Mark Sharonbrook, Nice Bike. I'll just give this example right now, and this is a great book to read. It's a super easy read. It's kind of just a desktop book that I got laying around right now. But Mark Sharonbrook was somebody, and I use that with his permission. Mark was somebody that I met at a conference in healthcare 8-9 years ago. And the book's called Nice Bike, and he gets up and talks about Harley Davidsons. He's like, "Anybody know what Harley Davidson is?" Well, of course, everybody knows what a Harley Davidson is. And he's like, "Anybody have one?" And a few hands go up and stuff. And he's like, when you pull up to a gas station and there's somebody standing there by their motorcycle, and you pull up in your minivan, you don't walk up to him and say, "Hey, you think my minivan's cool? Check it out. It's got a V6, shiny wheels, crumbs all over the inside." That's not really what you do. If you walk up to somebody that's gassing up their new Harley Electra Glide Classic or Super Glide, whatever, and all you have to do is say, "Hey, nice bike," and you got a friend for life, because they're going to tell you all about the add-ons and this chrome thing, and this is the only type of exhaust that this type of bike has in the region, and it costs this much, and they've rode to Sturgis and they've rode to Daytona and all. Just by saying "nice bike" at a gas station, you've got a friend for life, because those people are probably going to be passionate about those Harley Davidson motorcycles. If you go up to somebody and say "nice minivan," you're probably going to have a mom tell stories about how crazy their kids are on the mess inside. But again, you're probably going to at least build that networking and a little bit of that relationship. And you'd be amazed what some of those random conversations can lead to. You never know. You never know until you ask. That's something that I learned from my dad, and one of millions of things I learned from my dad. But it's like you never know until you ask, and I think that's true sometimes in relationships too. Sometimes you've heard this before. Sometimes they'll say, "Well, the best looking girl in the room sometimes is the most lonely," because everybody thinks that she's out of their league, and if people are afraid to go approach them and ask them out on a date. There's some truth in that, and that's a whole nother story for another time. But you'd be amazed, and sometimes you never know until you ask, and that's true in business. That's true in marketing, in sales, and that's what I do. I got to ask people, "Hey, do you want to come check out Burlington, Iowa, and Great River Health?" I get told no all the time, but when you find somebody that says, "Yeah, I do," now that's exciting. Then you can really dig in and start to learn more about what they want. And that's really what it's all about. When you're talking about networking, relationship building in business, it's building that relationship, building that network so you can expand your business. And that's what, Garth Brooks is trying to do when he's making you feel like when he sings The River, because he knows that it was your wedding song, even though he doesn't, you feel like that, right? Roy Williams, that's what he has all his success and all the books he's written and all the stuff he's done is that relationship building, and how keeping the spotlight on your client, on your customer, learning what they want is way more important than just telling your story. Bill Becker, same thing. We gave the Becker and the Jern example. We just gave the Mark Sharonbrook example about Nice Bike, and I gave the example about Reggie the Lab. Is keeping focused on other people and what they maybe want from you or what you can offer them to make their life better, to make something easier for them or whatever that might be. So Pepsi or Coke, this is an example about first impressions. And there's another catchphrase, right? If I said first impressions last, time to call Sherwood Company. Again, this is weird in an empty office, but I hope somebody was singing the Sherwood jingle. And that's an example too of all those Sherwood ads. You've heard them, talking about making your wedding better, making your graduation party better, making your business more recognizable by a well-lit sign, all that stuff. They focus a lot of their marketing and advertising on your business and on your personal events. But the Pepsi or Coke example, it's that first impression, and first impressions do last. And sometimes you might only have one chance at that impression. So the Pepsi or Coke example is if you've got somebody that's drank Coke their whole life and you're a Pepsi drinker and you're trying to get them to try Pepsi and they're like, no, I hate Pepsi, it's no good. And then you finally talk them into trying a Pepsi and they get a bad can. This stuff's terrible, it's gross. And you try it and you're like, well, this is a bad can, try this one. No. That can's just as bad as the rest of them. They're like, no, this is not, trust me, that was a bad example. Well, sometimes you don't have that second chance. And when I answer my phone and put my headset on and get, Dr. So-and-so on the phone from Omaha, I might have 14 other things going on in the office. I might have an early out at school and I'm trying to figure out how to get Rowan home because maybe Beth, my wife, is out of town for her job. And, but the phone rings and it's this doctor. I better drop all that baggage and stay focused on them because my problems aren't their problems, right? And I know if you have employees, everybody has bad days, but try to limit bad days to maybe bad hours or bad moments because that you never know when that next first impression can be a real difference maker in your world or somebody else's world. Okay, so when I'm having one of those crazy hectic days and I answer that phone call, I don't know who's on the other end. It might be the next rock star general surgeon or family practice doc that we need here in Southeast Iowa, in Fort Madison or Keokuk or here in Burlington. So I better be ready. I better not let my guard down and let my other stressors in life slow me down because that first impression is going to be their impression of Great River Health System. Doesn't matter how great the administrative team is, how great the other docs are, how great the staff is, how beautiful the buildings are. That doesn't matter if I get on the phone and I'm not friendly that first time they talk to somebody. I don't get a second chance. So the first impressions are so important in any networking situation. Doesn't matter if you're at a business after hours meeting somebody for the first time. If you don't take ownership of your own actions and you're maybe rude to somebody and then when they go to use your business, they're like, man, that person wasn't super friendly that time. They must not be very nice to their customers. I'm going to try somebody else. Okay, so those first impressions, super important. So pre-networking, once you build your network, how do you use it? Does anybody have a friend that calls you and as soon as the phone rings, they need something? Most of the time, you take the call anyway, you answer the question, you help them out with what they need help with. But when you build up your, what's the word I'm looking for? Your inventory of favors or your inventory of help, it's a lot easier to ask somebody when you're like, hey, I'm out of town and I need somebody to shovel my walk. Can you send somebody over to do that? Or whatever the example might be. How do you, once you build your network, how do you utilize it? Not only maybe to better your life or your business or your world, but maybe how can you help them too? The pre-networking, to pay it forward, right? So we heard a lot about that through, COVID and the pandemic of people paying it forward in drive-throughs, somebody giving a $50 bill to pay for the next, 8 or 10 cars meals at a McDonald's for the man's or, whatever else. And the paying it forward in pre-networking. So many times, you plant that seed and that friendly conversation, you have somebody, on the riverfront at a Burlington Riverfront Entertainment event, or at, Steamboat Days or Snowball or the Tri-State Rodeo, some social event, you have a conversation with somebody and maybe just a little bit about your business or what you do comes up. You never know when they might call you and say, hey, I talked to that guy about his garage door company and I'm going to give him a call. I'm going to give him a call because he was nice that one time we talked. So that pre-network conversation and building up that inventory of good networking can be important down the road. So how do learning the little things make a big difference? And how do you remember all that stuff and put it into play into something that can be effective? We're all quite similar, yet different, right? So looking at this graphic, right, you see the thing that's different. And I'm not saying you have to stand upside down on one hand to be different, but having something that's unique, if it's personal, if it's for your business, or your organization, your volunteer group, whatever, having something that is unique, and then telling that story can really be a difference maker. Okay, and having that elevator speech of knowing how your unique selling proposition or whatever your unique item is makes you different can make you memorable. So when they do need your business, or they do need to get some support from your volunteer organization, they remember you because you stood out, you were a little bit different, and you did something memorable. The example I'll give you is I think it's public knowledge out there. With the pandemic, all health systems across the country have really struggled financially, and we're one of them for sure. But one thing that we made, and again, I think it's Matt Wenzel, our CEO, said it, in public forums, we kept paying everybody at their full wage, even all the physicians. A lot of physicians, their work was cut by 30, 40, 50, even 60% because we couldn't do surgery for a number of months. A lot of the clinics were closed for months on end. But one thing we were dedicated to was we paid everybody at 100% throughout the entire pandemic, and we still do today. I really kind of hung my hat on that with recruiting because there was a lot of other organizations that didn't do that. They were laying physicians off. They were cutting staff, cutting physician staff completely. So in a lot of the recruiting messaging and marketing I did, I became the we pay everybody throughout the pandemic guy. And that drew a lot of attention to the marketing we were doing because not a lot of other people could say they were doing that. And there's all sorts of unique things about Great River Health that I personally can sell that I think even locally a lot of people don't know. Like, for example, we just hired a new interventional cardiologist that'll be starting next month. And one of the big selling points to him was we were the first hospital and program in the state to start interventional cardiology without having an open heart surgery program here. That was a very groundbreaking time, a very pioneering thing for Great River to do back in 2014 or 16. And we were the first in the state to do it. And so that was something that was unique to us that guy really remembered. And that was something that stuck with him when he decided to finally call me back and get on the phone. And then, the rest is history. He ended up signing. So finding those unique things, and maybe it's even just a personal level. What's the unique thing? And I'm not good at names. I'm not a name person. I remember people for something that they tell me about themselves. Oh, you're the Hawaii guy, or oh, you're the gal that knows how to sew, or whatever. Terrible examples there, but I'm talking about. I remember people. I remember faces and who they are, where they work, what they do, and I struggle with names. So I got to constantly repeat names in my head time and time again. They say if you say something 7 times in a row, you'll remember it better. So when I get a new doc on the phone, I'll say their name. I got a little sign by my phone. I'll remember to say their name 7 times. So I consistently can try to remember that. But anyway, doing things a little bit differently and having something that stands out can be key in networking and building your business as well. The world's changed dramatically in the last 10 or 15 years. I remember when I was a kid, I asked my 80-some-odd-year-old grandma, "Hey, Mimi, what's the coolest thing you saw happen in your life?" "Oh, I was using a calculator for homework." And she's like, "We didn't have calculators." So, asking her about, I go, "You remember when the calculator was invented?" She's like, "Yeah." I'm like, "Tell me about some other stuff that was cool that you remember." She's like, "Well, let's see. Electricity in the house, running water, the telephone, the car, television." I'm like, "Oh my gosh." So think about the last 10 years, right? Social media has gone insane. I think too far. People depend on it too much. I think people are addicted to it. It can be a great tool for networking and communication, but I think people are overly addicted to it. And again, that's a whole nother conversation for another time. If you haven't seen The Social Dilemma, take a peek at it on Netflix. It's eye-opening, if anything. But Have you ever texted a business contact? Do they always text you back? Calling, texting, emailing. There's so many ways to communicate these days. I just urge you to make sure that you're up to date and using the most proper form of communication with whoever you're trying to communicate with. That's something that I do with every physician that I reach out to is, how do you want to communicate? Do you want to communicate via text, email, phone? Because even though you might think people want to text, they might hate text messaging. I don't know. An emotion can't come across on text messages, or many times it's miscommunication with the emotion. But I note the fine art of small talk there on the slide. That's a book. If you Google Deborah Fine, she's somebody that I saw speak as well. She talks more about interpersonal communication. So while it's important to know how to manage social media and geofencing and all this other new type of marketing and communication, you still got to be able to walk up and talk to somebody. And that's not comfortable for everybody. When I go to meetings outside of Burlington, and I'm one of 100 recruiters in a room of 1,000, I'm not the go talk to everybody, be in the middle of the room guy. I'm kind of the sit in the corner and kind of observe things and then pick out a few people to talk to guy. And honestly, I'm not the best at talking or starting new conversations with people I don't know. Around here, it's easy for me because I know so many people. So I got to work on it, and many times just going up and introducing yourself can be an opener. Asking about some commonality that you may have, asking about a speaker that you saw at the, maybe the convention you're at or whatever. But the fine art of small talk is a great tool for people that are maybe uncomfortable in big group settings, talking to lots of people, or even just one-on-one settings in small settings. Google that, check it out. You can really learn a lot. So at some point, you got to be able to tell your story. And speaking of telling your story, I can't see it right now, but I know there's a queue with questions. And if you didn't know that, you can type in on your computer or phone, whatever you're watching on, you can type some questions in. I'll get to those here in about 4 or 5 minutes when I wrap up. Hopefully have 5 to 10 minutes for questions, or we'll wrap up a little bit early. But I'll check that queue out. I'll have Dustin help me with that technology here in just a couple minutes. But at some point, you do have to tell your story, okay? You can learn as much as you want about your clients, your friends, your coworkers, your fellow volunteer board members or whatever. But at some point, you got to tell your story. Doesn't matter if you're in, engineering like Brian Bross, who I think I saw is on the call, or if you're in the restaurant business, or if you're in healthcare, or if you're in the automotive business. Doesn't matter. At some point, you got to be good at telling your story. And I guess my only thoughts on that is make it good and align it with what you've already heard from the person you're communicating with, okay? Because again, nobody likes to sit there and watch somebody else's home movies. Boring, right? So when your friends come back from vacation, they're like, hey, you want to see my pictures? Everybody's got a phone now, and everybody's got pictures on their phone. About 3 pictures is plenty. 20 minutes of picture after picture after picture is too many. So having a succinct story with a true point, when it is finally time to have the spotlight on you and tell your story to whoever you're communicating with, have a short 2 to 3 minute, what I call an elevator speech about your business, about your fundraising, or about whatever you're trying to communicate with. And then make the movie about them. Tell your story, focus it back on them. And as you learn more about other people and tie in what you've learned about them with what you know and where your expertise lies, now you got a connection, okay? And then now you can really build on that relationship, help build your business, help build your fundraising, your organization, or whatever that might be. So in closing, what did we learn today? I talked about Roy Williams a little bit, the Wizard of Ads. Monday Morning Memo is kind of his weekly email. It's one of many that are out there, and check it out and read a couple of them if you want to click it and subscribe. I only get like $5 per click, so it's a joke, another bad piece of humor. I get no kickbacks from Roy Williams, but he does have interesting books and some interesting takes on marketing and persuasion. Mark Sharonbrook is the Nice Bike Guy. If you want to, screenshot this slide. Deborah Fine has the book, The Fine Art of Small Talk. It is a great conversation starter for that cocktail party, business meeting, whatever. If you're uncomfortable speaking with people you don't know, she really gives some good examples of how to do that. And a little bonus, Eric Qualman, he goes by Equal Man. Google him. I'm not going to bore you with those details. I'll give you a 1-minute story, then wrap up with questions. So I met him at a conference, and I went up and talked to him. And he was a walk on the Michigan State basketball team back in the 90s. And we did some math, and we were in college together at the same time. And he remembered when Chris Street died in Iowa City. He was a great Iowa basketball player. If you don't know, got killed in a bad accident right in the middle of the basketball season. It was about a month ago, back in 1991. And he was a friend of mine, an acquaintance, and it was tragic to me at the time, and it's something that still sticks with me today. But so I happened to be watching so I meet Eric Qualman, and we tell that story, and he's like, "Oh yeah, I remember that." And you guys came up to East Lansing and beat us. We were down, we were at 15 points, and you guys beat us in a great overtime game. I'm like, yeah, I totally remember that game. Fast forward about 5-6 months, that game is being replayed on ESPN. I take a screenshot with my phone of who I think is Eric Qualman sitting on the Michigan State bench, and I email it to him. I'm like, this guy's probably not going to remember who I am or whatever else. Lo and behold, within hours, the dude had emailed me back, and we opened a line of communication again. Now, I've never really needed anything from Eric Qualman, and he's never really needed anything to me, but he's an expert at networking. And I think the fact that he took time to email back some recruiter in Iowa, just because we had that commonality, that Michigan State basketball game in the memory of Chris Street was really cool, and a great example of how just starting a conversation and being focused on other people can really help build your network. So how do I get to questions? Awesome. So no questions is a sign that everybody's already hung up and is gone, or hopefully you learned something and were enthralled for the last 50 minutes. But unless anything else appears in the queue, I hope you enjoyed it. If you ever want to talk about persuasion, about marketing, about facilitating relationships, any of that stuff, I'm passionate about it. I enjoy it. My contact information is up there. I'm pretty easy to find, kfleming@grhs.net. So thank you for all you folks do. I know that life's been tough the last year, so thanks to all the business leaders for kind of keeping things going here in Southeast Iowa, and hopefully we're getting somewhat back to normal as the vaccine gets out. And I know that everybody out here at Great River thanks you for all you've done, to try to keep everything as safe as we can, and continue to mask up, get those vaccines once you can, once they're available. And thanks everybody for all you've done to make Southeast Iowa a great place to recruit to for what I do here at Great River. And thanks for joining us today. And with that, peace out.
Thank you, Casey. I think that was tremendous. I'm sure everyone on our video call today is very appreciative. Casey Fleming, medical staff recruiter at Great River Health. Appreciate you kicking off our Success in Business series. And networking is coming back. It's not too far into the future, and we will be gathering together again in person. So thank you very much, Casey Fleming. I also want all of our viewers to note that at the conclusion of this program, you will have an opportunity to register for the next program in the Success in Business series. The next one will be held on Wednesday, March 24th over the noon hour. The focus is on personal development and career success. Where are you with your goals? Our presenter will be Amy Burkhart with Titan Broadcasting and Digital Group. So thank you again for joining us today. If you see Casey Fleming out and about, or you'd like to shoot him an email and let him know what a fantastic job he did today and how much we appreciate him, I'm sure that he would welcome that as well. Make it a great day. Stay warm. Spring is coming. The calendar's in our favor.